Hey, today we're going to talk about 8.7, Persistent Organic Pollutants, or POPs. So take a moment, check out the Enduring Understanding, look at the learning objective, pause the video, review the essential knowledge, and set up your Cornell notes. So persistent organic pollutants are, recall, anything that is organic is carbon-based, technically carbon and hydrogen. And when something is persistent, it stays around a really long time. And that's because these molecules are fat soluble, and also that enables them to travel long distances via wind or water. And because they're fat soluble, they stay in, when they're consumed by an animal, they stay in their tissues, in the fat tissue. As opposed to something like nitrate or sulfate or any of these soluble minerals or nutrients that are easily passed through in urine or feces. But when you eat or consume something that is persistent organic pollutant, it stays with you for a long time. Now all of these chemicals are completely man-made. There are only anthropogenic sources. These have been made for a variety of purposes, and there's a bunch of persistent organic pollutants. I've picked out a few of them that you might encounter again. So it's good if you just kind of remember, at least focus on a couple of them, even if you don't remember all of them. But recognize that when they have a very molecular sounding name, chances are it's probably one of these persistent organic pollutants. So one of the persistent organic pollutants is DDT, and we've talked about DDT a lot. Here's a lovely chemical structure for it. Don't ask me what it stands for because I'd have to Google it. So you can Google it yourself if you want to know. I used to know it. And anyway, it's an insecticide that targets the nervous system of the insects. But when the other organisms, like lizards would eat it, then cats would eat it, the lizards got lethargic, then the cats ate the lizard. This was a big problem in Borneo. There's actually a really cool little true story, but there's also a children's book that went along with it. But it was about DDT, and when organisms eat it, they get a little lethargic because it's targeting their nervous system. But it was fat soluble, so it accumulated in the bald eagles, and bald eagles were the top predator in this aquatic ecosystem. And again, if you don't remember, their eggshells were really soft when they laid them, so they were easily damaged. And most of the chicks would not actually hatch, so the population was in serious decline. Another persistent organic pollutant, another example is pharmaceuticals. And pharmaceuticals are pills, prescription drugs, antibiotics, reproductive hormones, steroids. Again, these are chemicals that are made in a lab. They are not natural. And they are, if you flush them down the drain, guess where they end up? They end up in nearly all the streams. And once they enter the aquatic ecosystems, they're an endocrine disruptor for humans, but also for fish and other aquatic organisms. So fish and frogs can be affected, especially when we're flushing steroids down the toilet or any sort of reproductive hormones. You definitely will, it's possible you can see feminization of certain other organisms that are aquatic. Another one is dioxins. And dioxins were found in pesticides in the production, from incinerating medical waste, automobile emissions, and coal and biomass combustion. Dioxins are very common. In fact, they're found in the Newtown Creek. And this is one of the reasons why you shouldn't eat anything in the Newtown Creek. In fact, I have a friend whose grandfather fell in the Newtown Creek in the 1950s, and he lost his sense of smell. So who knows? Anyway, another thing is, dioxins are endocrine disruptors. You don't have to understand or really know which specific part of the endocrine system is disrupted, but just know that it is an endocrine disruptor, but also can damage your immune system. Another one that's present in the Newtown Creek and the Gowanus Canal are PCBs, and these are polychlorinated biphenyls. And these are added, or they were added to plastics But also they're added for heat exchange fluid for industrial purposes. And it impacts fish. It can impact their spawning, and it's also an endocrine disruptor. And the two are related because it affects the reproductive hormones. And for humans, we can also experience reproductive failure, but PCBs also cause cancer. Now, I went through a lot, very quick and brief, I think, adequate explanations. What I would like you to do is practice with this FRQ. Explain why warnings like the one pictured on the left are common along the shore of Newtown Creek in North Brooklyn. So, I look forward to seeing what you write. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that this was informative. I will see you soon.